he came out with these amazing. You just kind of go, where do you find those phrases? You know, they're just so brilliant. He just, I mean, the amount of times we heard them, and you kind of were desperately trying to keep a straight face, but inside you were just kind of losing it, thinking, you know, that is just the funniest thing I've ever heard. I've never heard anybody use that expression. I want to go back to London and use that with my family when they mess up, you know, during a dinner. You just want to turn around and say, God damn it, you know, shit down your spine, or whatever you used to say. I mean, I don't even.
I'm going to rip your head off and shit in your shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
What did he say last week?
It's great, amazing.
I think it was Hogan's goat and stacking swivel. That's what I have written down.
Grab you by your stack and swivel stick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You'll quit when I get tired.
Yeah, legend, absolute legend, real legend. I mean, yeah, really inspirational man.
So in addition to what you did to prepare physically at boot camp, I have a really interesting question from Meg in Ontario out of the chat room. She mentioned that the real Smokey died in '97, so she was interested in knowing what you did as your research, you know, as your preparation into the person.
Well, I mean, yeah, he did die in '97, and I was very sad not to have ever met him. But he did a lot of interviews for Stephen Ambrose when Stephen Ambrose was researching Band of Brothers, and I got all of those transcripts. So I had a huge amount of resource material to kind of reference from, and I spent, you know, a lot of time going through those with a fine tooth comb and extracting, you know, details, you know, just little details to really kind of, you know, put the icing on the cake as such when we were kind of, you know, shooting the series and make sure that the detail was all in there. And in fact, I've still got all those transcripts, and I found them not that long ago. And every time I kind of sit down and just have a flick through it, you know, it really does touch me hugely, because I really feel like I got to know him really well, even though I never actually met him, and I wish I had. And as I say, it's just unfortunate that I wasn't able to. But I obviously, as I say, read the transcripts and did a lot of research that way. And I was also in touch with his family, his widow Betty, and his daughters were very involved with the reunions, and I was in touch with them, and I had the pleasure to kind of meet them and chat with them when they came over to the UK. And I also saw them, you know, quite a few times during the shooting, and was able to kind of ask them, you know, specific stuff about Walter, and that was amazing. I mean, that was phenomenal to basically, you know, kind of see him living through them. And I mean, I did as much research as I could possibly do. I think you really do feel that responsibility to say, when you're playing somebody that, you know, that existed, and you want to do them justice. And that was my biggest thing, was to just make sure that I did him, and obviously we did the Men of Easy Company the justice that they deserved. So it was really fascinating actually doing that research, and I got books out of the library, and I researched about weapons, and you know, as much as possible to just kind of soak up that stuff, so that when we got out there and started shooting, you know, it was just in us. You know, we just did it, and that's what boot camp was so amazing at, because as well as the actual physical and mental preparation, we also had stand-down time, which I know some of the guys have talked about, which was basically talking about, you know, research, and we could ask questions, and it was just really important that stuff was just available to us, and we just, by the time we got to shooting, we just knew it. It was just kind of part of us, and we could just get on with doing what we needed to do to make sure it was authentic. And yeah, that's mainly how I did the research. And then there was also the Mississippi accent, which was something that needed some attention, and we had some very good dialect coaches, Jill being one of them, who basically sat with us and you know, sat with the guys who had, you know, trickier accents, and you know, went through some stuff with us, and she really helped as well to really kind of, you know, get that accent as close to his accent as possible. And yeah, it was great. We had those resources, so it was fantastic.
And did it feel right, you know, your interpretation of him during? And
think so. I mean, I think I've had the pleasure of actually playing real people since Band of Brothers, and I've always felt, you know, that my main concern is to get the essence of that person. You know, I've seen lots of people impersonate people that they're portraying, and I've never felt like impersonation is what I want to do. I want to get to the heart and soul of who that person is and get an essence of their personality and their character, and that's been my main concern. And I remember I think having a conversation very early on. I think during episode 1 we were talking about how we were going to go about kind of portraying these guys, and I also remember thinking I want to get the detail right as much as I can, particularly with all the costume and with the pictures and the photographs that I had of how he looked during quarantine and where he wore his grenades, you know, on his uniform, etc. So that was always really important. But also, I felt that, you know, it was really important to kind of get a sense of what it was like just for a human being to go through that experience. You know, these guys were, you know, they were young men who hadn't experienced a huge amount in their lives, and they went and did a remarkable thing. And I was just really keen that, as well as just kind of getting the sense of the real person, it's also really important to get a sense of what it's like for a human being to have to go through those experiences. And you can do as much training as you like, but when you get into combat and you're faced with the things that they were faced with, you know, those kind of things can suddenly, you know, go out the window, and suddenly you're faced with, you know, your basic instincts, which is just to kind of, you know, survive and to make sure that you're protecting and helping the guy next to you in the foxhole. And I just wanted to get a real sense of what it was like to just, as I say, be a human being in those kind of extreme situations, and really portray that, because I think that's what Band of Brothers did very well, is to get inside what it was like to actually be there, you know?
No, it was one of the, if not the only one, to make that leap from physical to emotional, to drag in the watcher into exactly what you guys were going through. I mean, it's scary how accurate everything was portrayed.
Well, I mean, I think, as I say, once we got onto set and everything was just so real, and we'd done that kind of extensive training, I mean, it just happened, you know, when you had to access those emotions. When we started rolling, it wasn't like we were making a TV show, you know, it was real. I mean, you felt those, you know, those blanks and the, you know, those squibs and the explosions and stuff, and you kind of felt this is real. This is a real situation. And you know, when you had to kind of, you know, produce the goods emotionally, it was all there. I mean, I really didn't have to kind of delve very far. I just felt like we just switched it on, and there it was. And that's why I'm just so proud of the show, because, you know, I'll sit down and if I haven't, you know, seen it that recently, but when I have watched it, you know, since it was aired, I'm just so proud of it. You know, I'm so emotionally attached to it, and the music starts up, and it really does get you. It makes me feel so emotional, and I'm just so proud of what we achieved, but also just so proud to have been able to tell their story to the extent that we did, and really kind of capture what it was like to be there, you know.